According to our next guest, the solution to today's economic crisis is actually for the government to get out of the way. Joining us now from Capitol Hill is Congressman Ron Paul, Republican representative from Texas. Congressman Paul is a member of the House Financial Services Committee and Joint Economic Committee. And Congressman, thanks for coming on the show. Let me ask you first about the budget, as we've just gotten finished watching the Treasury Secretary get grilled for about 3 hours on the budget. What's your take on where we're headed with this kind of budget and what can be done about it?
For a government that's totally broke, I can hardly see that these are reasonable requests to spend trillions and trillions of dollars more, the biggest budget effort. At the same time, the deficit is huge. We're currently running a deficit of $1.5 trillion. Makes no sense. We should be cutting spending. We should be trying to live within our means and not just spend our way out of a recession that was brought upon us by too much spending, too much borrowing, and too much printing press money.
Is it at all encouraging, though, to you that after this initial stimulus spending, according to Obama and his administration, he does hope to cut that budget down to $500 billion and change?
I don't know how anybody can talk that way with a straight face, and they do. The president did, and members of Congress do. And they actually, I don't know whether they brainwash themselves or what, but the odds of cutting the deficit in half by running up a deficit of $1 or $2 trillion, it's beyond me. That is just fodder for the markets, thinking that you people in the markets are going to believe it, and it's going to help the markets recover. So it's a fairy tale. It's just silliness.
Congressman, what do you say to people who respond that we need to bail out AIG? You know, the counterparty risk is too great, and if you were to let an institution like this fail, it would be, as David Malpass told me today, absolutely calamitous.
Well, I think they're wrong. I think that there would be problems, but they're making the problems that much worse. I think it's immoral. Why take money from productive people who save money and give it to people who are non-productive? It's unconstitutional. There's no authority for us to transfer wealth like this. And besides, it's totally impractical. It won't do any good whatsoever. And it means that more deficits and more pressure on the Fed to create more money, that's where our problem is.
Though Bernanke was furious when asked about the AIG situation, does that perhaps set a precedence that we won't see something like this happen?
Well, let's hope so. Maybe there will be finally something that Bernanke and I can agree on. But no, I think it's going to continue. The pressure is so strong. Politicians and bureaucrats and central bankers cannot take their hands off. They feel compelled to do something, even though doing less would be a lot better. We should lower taxes, lower spending, and get out of the way. We have too many houses, and the housing prices got too high. The correction is lower the prices of housing and don't stimulate housing. But they're doing the opposite. They want to keep the prices high and interfere with contracts and bail out the weak borrowers. And you can't find a solution that way. That's why the markets don't react positively. They know a lot more than the politicians do and the central bankers. We in politics and those in the central bank pretend that we know, but we can't know, and that's why the market is rejecting our proposals.
Although the voters may reject you if you don't save them from losing their houses and losing their jobs, isn't that a concern?
Well, it is, but I understand there's only about 8% of the people that might lose their houses. And besides, the money so far, the trillions of dollars that we've invested, hasn't helped those people yet, and they don't trust that it will. So they're very leery about this. It has bailed out some financial people, and people kept getting bonuses. Some of the bank executives kept getting bonuses, so there's no reason to trust what we tell them. Now we're going to bail out the little guy and the guy that holds the mortgages at the expense of the people that have been paying their mortgages. So they're not very happy, and they're not going to be satisfied with this because it won't solve the problem.
All right, Congressman Paul, we appreciate your time. Ron Paul joining us from Washington, D.C. Now, speaking of Washington, D.C.,